everybody, welcome back to the High Performance Zone. Today, I have Dr. Michael Zeus. This is call sign Bruce, and he is one of the world's top experts on sleep, but not just sleep. I'm talking sleep for high performance. I'm talking sleep for every aspect of our life, for your business, for athletes, for just your family. I mean, we dive deep into things. He got a simple five-step process on how to improve your sleep, why it's important, and how it can affect you. Filled with data, okay? We're talking about gratitude in here. It turns out your mental aspect is 75% of how you sleep. So going to bed with gratitude, waking up with gratitude, huge for better sleep. And with better sleep, it gets you out of all the negative spirals that we have. Here's the most important part. He's got a super fast quiz, chronoquiz.com, lets you know what your chronotype is, which then we'll get into how much sleep do you need? When's the best time to go to sleep? Heck, we even talk about what's the best mattress and what's the best mattress for sex. That's an awesome piece. Okay, I'm looking forward to re-listening to this at myself. Let's dive in with Gucci and Zeus. Here we go. Everybody, back to today with Dr. Bruce, who is the world's expert, I believe, in sleep and performance. And that's why, Michael, as we dive into this today, I'm super excited on finding out how does sleep increase our performance. But with that, first off, just welcome to the High Performance Zone.
Well, thanks for having me, Gooch. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to mixing it up and talking with people about performance and sleep.
Yeah, I love it. You know, I actually sleep incredibly well, but not everybody does. And so I want to dive into why sleep is so important. It just comes naturally to me, but I know it doesn't for everybody. So first off, call sign. We were talking right before we got on here, and we Sugar, you know, one of my teammates said, "Hey, we're going to call you Night Owl because I understand you're a night owl, right?"
I am a night owl. And, you know, it's interesting, and we're going to get into it in a little while, but that distinction of being an early bird versus a night owl turns out that it can be incredibly important, not only in teaching you when to go to sleep, but improving the quality of your sleep. To answer your question more specifically, Gooch, the reasons that sleep is important really fall into three basic categories. So one, it's obvious, physical, right? We need recovery. We need healing from any of the insults or injuries that we may have throughout the day, during training, during walking, during whatever we're doing. But our physicality needs a time where it's not in motion to be able to recover and heal, right? So, because that's really the bottom line here is sleep is recovery and healing. So physically, we know that's an important aspect. The second big important aspect is cognitively. So our brains really don't work well when we're not sleeping too well. Should seem pretty obvious. I don't know about you, but if I'm not well slept, I am not making the best decisions that I could be making, right? So cognitively, we know our decision-making skills are off. In fact, the more sleep deprived we are, the riskier our decision-making becomes, which is highly important for performance athletes and performance career folks, right? Because here's what happens. You only get 4 hours of sleep, you go to work or whatever your career is, and all of a sudden you make a bad decision, and that could really have a big effect on you. So understanding from a cognitive perspective how this works is important. And remember, sleep affects memory, it affects focus, and it affects your ability to make decisions. So that's the cognitive part. The third area is emotions, right? And so should be pretty obvious, but again, area to look at. We know that when you're not well slept, you're kind of a cranky pain in the ass, right? I mean, my daughter calls it being a grumpy fish. I think that's the perfect definition of somebody who is sleep deprived emotionally, is they're just grumpy and depressed and anxious, and all of the emotions that are not so great are heightened. All of the fun emotions like happiness, that all gets squashed the more sleep deprived you are. And so once again, sleep is important for physical, for cognitive, as well as emotional reasons.
Wow. So it seems like we got a superpower here that, you know, that's going to make a difference in a lot of things. Let's go back to what you said. But first question hits me is the classic, you know, well, how much is enough sleep? Right. When is too much? When's not enough? But I don't want to go there yet. I want to go back to that in a second. Instead, I want to go back to some of the things you mentioned early on, and that is you're on the board of, you and I were chatting before, and of performance for esports, right?
Right.
And when you said that, I thought to myself, wow, this is interesting because, esports means you're in computers, you're up late, possibly. So they've got you on this board to help professionals in that world. Tell us a little bit about that. Why is that important?
So the Esports Council is developed. It's got a group of physicians, non-physicians, healthcare people to look at esports. So what we're talking about here is gaming sports. And for folks out there who may not realize this, the fastest growing sports in the world, turns out they're electronic sports. Yeah, so I know it sounds crazy, but they will take entire stadiums and fill them with people to watch other people playing these video games. So to be clear, this is a new area for people to look at. However, got to be healthy, right? And so here's the thing. Many people don't know this, but esports athletes, they train. So they play games and you think, oh, how bad could that be? I get to hang out and play a game. Well, if it was your job to play the game for 7 or 8 hours a day, guess what? You would get hand cramps. Your fingers would start to hurt. Your ability to focus might not be so great. The blue light that's coming through the television could affect your ability to sleep at night. Maybe you're staying up late. Maybe you're drinking too many Red Bulls and caffeine. All of these things are part of that gaming culture. So my job on this committee is to develop criteria for coaches of these athletes to be able to identify when an athlete might have an issue and be able to fix it and avoid some of those issues moving forward. Now, this kind of dovetails nicely in with the question that you almost asked a moment ago, which is, how much sleep does somebody need? When should somebody sleep? Things of that nature. And so we can get into that as well. The answer to that question is, quite frankly, I'm not always as concerned as how much as I am the quality rather of the sleep that people are getting. So there's lots of different kind of theories out there about sleep. Some people say, oh, get in bed, sleep as long as you possibly can. That's what your body needs, go for it. Let's be fair. The world doesn't really work that way. If we could all just sleep as much as we wanted to or needed to, that would be a wonderful thing. So what I've done is I've looked at ways to improve the quality of our sleep. So the stuff that you get, maybe it's not the right amount, but if you can at least get the goodies from it, I think you're really in much, much better shape. And the good news is it's not that hard to improve the quality of your sleep.
So how do you define quality when it comes to sleep?
So
by the way, real quick, I wanted to say back gaming. So a few years ago, this is a big deal. I work with a lot of people in Silicon Valley, and they, the buying of the sports teams, the setting up of the leagues. I got a chance to talk to some people who were buying those teams, and I thought to myself, boy, you talk about a new frontier. I mean, you're buying a franchise that's electronic. I know. It's crazy. It's good to hear that it's doing well. But let's go back to what we just talked about. What's quality? So what do you mean by quality?
So quality, the way I'm going to define it, is when the lights go out and then the lights come back on, right? That period of time, how much time does a human spend, number one, unconscious, number two, in the deeper stages of sleep? Because here's the thing, somebody could get 9 hours of crappy sleep. It's not going to do them a damn bit of good. I mean, it might do them a little bit of good, but not a whole lot. Whereas somebody could get 6 hours of super high potency sleep and actually feel better than if they got 9 hours of light crappy sleep. So the way we define it is twofold. Number one, awakenings. Number two, the depth of the sleep itself. So one thing we're always looking for, we want it so that you don't wake up multiple times a night. Now, I want to be clear to everybody who's listening and watching. Everybody wakes up a couple of times a night. That's just life. That's just normal. That's just how our bodies work. So I don't want anybody to say, oh my gosh, I wake up twice a night. My sleep is terrible. Not even close. But if you wake up twice a night and you're awake for an hour each time, you got a problem on your hands, because that awakening is taking away from not only the quantity, but the quality as well. The second part is this depth of sleep idea. So how do you know if you're getting good, deep sleep? Well, you can get a tracker. I have a tracker here on my hand. It's a ring tracker. Some people have wrist trackers. Some people even put trackers underneath the sheets of their mattress. So that way they can track their sleep. So you can learn the depth of your sleep that way. But to be fair, Gooch, here's what I tell people all the time. If you wake up and you feel like crap, and that doesn't go away for like that doesn't go away within 3 to 5 minutes, you have a sleep quality problem because you're awakening from this event and you're not feeling so good. Something's going on during that event.
Wow, let's dive in this because I've got so many cool questions. Just so everybody knows, we're going to talk about how athletes, it's important for them, how business people, how when you travel, some hacks on sleep. But you've got so many things that I'm going to rapid fire. So you held up your ring. There's all kinds of like those. What are some of the better ones? I don't have one yet. So if you're going to recommend to me, Gooch, you can buy anything. Yep. What would you buy and why?
So the first question I would ask you is, what do you want the ring to do? And here's why I asked that. There are some companies that are activity trackers. There's some companies that are sleep trackers. So the activity trackers monitor sleep and the sleep trackers monitor activity. But when you don't build your company based on that, you're not going to do a great job of it. So number one, decide, is this an activity tracker, a sleep tracker, or both? If it's both, I recommend the Oura Ring, and I'll tell you why. The form factor. So having this on your finger allows it to collect data that you cannot collect on your wrist. Primarily temperature, blood oxygen levels are the two things that you get from the ring that is very, very difficult, almost impossible to get from the wrist. So you will get more accurate data on a ring type of device. Now, in order for me to say a sentence like that, I better be able to put my money where my mouth is. So there's actually studies that have been done doing head-to-head ring versus watch, and the brand names are out there as well. The two that appear to be the most accurate are the Fitbit and the Oura Ring for sleep. If you're doing activity, that's a whole different thing. And if that's your focus, go for it. That's not the area of study that I have. So from a sleep perspective, if that's what you're looking for, I recommend either the Oura Ring or the Fitbit because their accuracy levels are as high as they can be. But I want to put a caveat on there, Gooch, because a lot of people don't realize this. Sleep is an incredibly complicated process. If I brought you into my sleep lab, I'd have to put 27 electrodes on you, put video cameras on you. So you can imagine, I'm not going to get nearly as much data from a ring as I would from 27 electrodes that are all over your body. So everybody has to understand we are not at the point where these consumer devices can be diagnostic for sleep disorders. And that's the other thing that we have to talk about is that's what affects sleep quality. So if you wake up after 8 hours of sleep and feel like crap, I'm sending you to the sleep lab because there's a very high likelihood you have a sleep disorder like sleep apnea, narcolepsy, things of that nature.
Oh, sweet. How about let's go back to just high level. What I know this varies with all your research, but what is good? How long is good quality sleep? What does it look like? How do I get into it? Talk about the lighting, all that kind of stuff that affects me if I want to have a quality sleep.
So if you turn to me and you say, hey, Michael, I want to get the highest quality sleep that I possibly can. How do I go about doing that? I have a 5-step process that I can show you exactly how to do it. So step number 1 is to wake up at the same time 7 days a week. There's no catch-up sleep in this, okay? Catch-up sleep is complete BS. It is not possible. And I'll explain to you why in just a second.
Nice.
Step number 1 is to wake up at the same time 7 days a week. This does 2 things. It keeps your circadian rhythm in line. It also tells your brain when to produce melatonin. So let's break down the science here very quickly. So when we wake up in the morning, our eyes open up, light hits our eyeball and sends a signal to our brain to turn off the melatonin faucet in our head. This clears the cobwebs, allows us to wake up and move forward. Everybody knows that little fact, but what people don't know is at the same time that it turns off the melatonin faucet, it sets a timer for approximately 14 hours later to start melatonin. So follow the logic, Gooch. If you're waking up at 6 a.m. every single day during the week, at 8 o'clock at night, that's when your melatonin is going to kick off again, right? 14 hours later. But If on Saturday you decide to sleep until 9, news flash. 14 hours later means your body isn't going to start producing the melatonin that you're looking for 3 hours, which means 11 o'clock is when it starts, which means your whole schedule gets thrown off. So by waking up at 6 every single day, you know your body is ready to kick off at 8, which is the right time for melatonin, because it takes 90 minutes once it kicks off for it to even begin to take an effect. So step number 1, wake up at the same time every single day, including the weekends. That's the longest explanation. Everything else is quite simple. Step number 2 is to stop caffeine by 2 p.m. Reason behind that, most people don't know it, but caffeine has a half-life of 6 to 8 hours. So if you stop at 2, 8 hours later is 10 o'clock, which is roughly when most people are trying to fall asleep. So if you stop by 2, at least 50% of the caffeine is out of your system, which turns out to be an important number. If at least 50% is out, it's much easier to fall asleep. What would be better? Stopping at 12. What would be better? Stopping at 10. So what I tell all my patients is start out, stop at 2, do that for 2 months. Once you lock and load that, move it back an hour. Do it for 2 months, move it back an hour. See if you can really get your caffeine consumption, if you need it at all, into a subscribed period of time, so that way it doesn't have a big effect on your sleep. Step number 3 has to do with alcohol. There's a really big difference between going to sleep and passing out. Okay. So
I think I've done both.
I have as well. And so the goal here is to avoid the passing out. It all has to do with the amount of alcohol that you drink and how close it is to lights out. More alcohol closer to lights out has bigger effects on sleep. So my step number 3 is to stop alcohol 3 hours before bed and limit it to 2 drinks during your meal. That way you can move through, have a nice glass of wine, a beer, a cocktail, whatever happens to be your thing. Enjoy yourself, relax, but it doesn't have a massive effect on your sleep. Step number 4 is one that I know you like, which is exercise. I want people to exercise every single day, but if you do it too close to bedtime, you increase your core body temperature, it makes it very difficult to sleep. So step number 4 is to stop exercise 4 hours before bed. Step number 5 has to do with your morning routine. It's very easy. You're going to do 3 different things. Step number 1, 15 deep breaths, just sitting on the edge of your bed and bringing in the air. What this does is it wakes up your respiratory system, but it makes you very present. So you are aware of everything that's going on. Step number 2, drink 15 ounces of water. Don't complain about it, just slam it, okay? Everybody wakes up dehydrated. You know, most people don't know, but sleep in and of itself is a dehydrative event. Sure. People lose almost a full liter of water just from the humidity in their breath. One liter. 1 liter. Can you believe that?
Yeah. And even if it's like people realize, like I live out in the mountains and when it's cold, you don't think you're dehydrated. How crazy you are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then the third part of that step program is to get 15 minutes of sunlight, walk outside and get 15 minutes of sunshine. The reason we do that is that sunlight hits your eyeball, turns off the melatonin faucet, and 15 minutes is the exact amount of time that your body needs to produce vitamin D. Remember, vitamin D is a circadian pacemaker. So in summary, step number 1, wake up at the same time every day. Step number 2, stop caffeine by 2 p.m. Step number 3, stop alcohol 3 hours before bed. Step number 4, exercise daily, but stop exercise 4 hours before bed. And step number 5 is do the 3 15s, 15 deep breaths, 15 ounces of water, and 15 minutes of sunshine.
Wow, that was sweet. Michael, I'm going to change your call sign to Zeus. And that's because we were talking, you know, your last name, Breus, you said like Zeus. And I'm going, oh, the God like Zeus. That was brilliant, man. I love how simple it is and clear with the science. You know, you remind me of Andrew Huberman, right? I mean, when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about some of the stuff that he's said, and you back it up with some clear things. So let's then dive into what if you're having problems, right? And I heard that women have a harder time than men. Is that true? That was what my team told me that, by the way.
Yep. So it's very, very interesting. So it depends upon the sleep disorder as to the male versus female. So as an example, one of the areas that a lot of sleep specialists treat is something called sleep apnea. For folks out there who may not know, sleep apnea is a very important situation, very challenging situation where your throat collapses on itself and you stop breathing at night. The ratio of that is 2 men for every 1 woman that has that disorder. However, if you look at insomnia, the inability to sleep, it's the opposite. We see almost 2 women for every man that comes to our clinic. So in some cases, we see different things seem to occur with the different genders.
How much does your mental aspect affect your sleep?
I would say 75% of your sleep is mental. We're talking here anxiety or depression as the 2 biggies that have a big, big effect. The other 25%, I would argue, you could break up into 3 categories, which would be medical conditions, medications, and your environment. Those 3 things. So example, if you've got low back pain, you're going to have a hard time sleeping if you don't have that low back pain treated, right? And then you have to have your environment good, which means you have to have a good bed and a good pillow to support your low back pain so that you don't have it. Then you can go off to sleep. If you can't sleep at that point, it's probably due to anxiety, that you're worried about having pain, or depression, that you've been dealing with pain for a while. So we would attack that. So you see what I'm saying here is we have to look for the different areas, but every sleep disorder, I would argue, is probably multifactorial.
Okay, so you're describing the challenge my wife and I have because we rented a VRBO for 6 weeks, right? And it's nice. It's in Carmel. It's a beautiful house, but
awesome.
The mattress sucks, right? And so you mentioned the mattress. She happens to have lower back pain, right? So what do you? First off, do you know a good mattress, and what do you sleep on, and why?
Yep. So I work with a lot of good mattress companies. And that's one of the things I want. Also, I created a guide on my website of how to buy a bed. I'm going to be serious with you here, Gooch. There's a shitload of companies out there that sell beds. And look, nobody's got the time. I mean, there's over 200 of them. Nobody's got the time to review them all, look at them, see what works for this person, see what works for that person. So me and my staff, we actually did that. So we've actually done reviews of over 100 mattresses on my website. So that way people can really get an understanding. And for example, I have one: best mattresses for back pain, best mattresses for side sleepers, best mattresses for people who are a little bit on the bigger side. So some of that's going to depend. To answer your question more succinctly, what do I sleep on? I sleep on 2 different mattresses, and I'll explain why. Number one,
while everyone's waiting, the sleepdoctor.com. That's where they're going, right?
Yes, 100%. Go to the sleepdoctor.com/mattress guide, and you will learn more than you've ever learned before. Nice. I sleep on 2 different beds, primarily because my wife, and you had mentioned your partner, my wife likes to sleep with the television on and the dogs in the bed. Okay.
How big are your dogs first?
My dogs are only about 30 pounds or less. So it's not terrible. It's not like I got Great Danes in there.
Okay, so here's the challenge. We just rescued 2 Rhodesian Ridgebacks.
Oh, I love Rhodies. Great dogs. A lot of energy.
Ton of energy. We just got off the beach walking them. But we've trained them to sleep in their crates. They actually like their crates. It's their little den, right? But we don't have their crates when we travel. And so they sleep next to the bed. And the one who's 104 pounds, he decides that he likes to cuddle. And so he's constantly asking to get up in bed. And of course, we initially had the little one's 72 pounds, right? But it's funny because even a king size bed with 2 Rhodesians on it, you got a whole different game going on.
Yeah, you got a whole different ball game going there. So my wife, look, we've been married for 23 years. Okay. I don't know if you've ever tried to fix something in your partner before, but it doesn't go particularly well, right?
I am classic at that. I just go right to the fix it. It never works. I mean, I'm trying to learn empathy, and I'm trying to learn just to listen.
I know I'm working on it myself. And so what I've done is during the week, I actually will sleep in the guest room because I don't want to disrupt her. And she has issues with sleep. So during the week, I will sleep in the guest room. And the bed I have in the guest room is called a Purple mattress.
Okay.
So this is the brand that I really like for people with low back pain in particular. And let me explain why. They have a very interesting kind of grid type of material that when you lie in it, it's just no pressure. So that part's great. On the weekends, when I come back into the bedroom and I am hanging out with my wife, we have a different bed in there. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. As the sleep doctor, I decided to put forth quite a bit of dollars towards my bed. So I sleep on a bed called a Hastens, Hastans. And so Hastens is a bed made out of Sweden. It is a very high profile, very nice bed, high-end luxury bed, which I love. And I sleep at that on the weekends. But to be fair, not everybody needs a high-end luxury bed or a bed specific to back pain. That's why we created the guide.
Wow. So what about the mattress? The Hastings is, high end, but is this the foam mattress? What kind is it?
So the Hastings in particular, they have very unique materials. The most unique material that they have is horsehair that they stuff the bed with, because what they've discovered is it's a cooling property. It doesn't take on the same amount of heat that many of the foams and the gels and the things like that do. So it's got some unique technology from that perspective. Also, it has an entire layer of flax. Now, you might be wondering, flax, wait, I've heard about that for like my smoothie. Why on earth would that be in a material that I would have in my bed? So it turns out that flax is a natural demagnetizer. So,
oh, wow.
So when you've got power running through your walls, right, that leaks radiation out into what's called electromagnetic fields, this property actually sucks that stuff in. Now, to be fair, there are a lot of people who don't believe in electromagnetic fields having effects on your sleep and things like that. But if you go to Europe, this is a very common practice. So those are, I would argue, the two most unique materials in the Hastings bed that I really enjoy.
Nice. Okay, I'm going on your website. I'm going to look and get a bed. Probably it has to. So, but here's, okay, we're just going to have a little fun here. So you actually sleep in a different room because you care about your wife. You want her to get better sleep.
And me, I want to get sleep too. I can't sleep with the dogs and the TV on either. So.
Oh, okay. I got you. Both of you. Okay, got it. All right. So here's what's going through my mind is, so I read you have a mattress, the best mattress for sex. So now, is that a Hastings? Are you a weekend guy?
Okay, so here's so you got two things, but not exactly right.
Okay,
So what I'm known for is telling people the best time for sex, not necessarily the best mattress for sex.
Okay, I
can answer the question about best mattress for sex, because it's really based, like if you look at it from a biomechanics standpoint, it's based on bounce and friction. That's it, right? So when you think about it, depending upon which position you're going to be intimate in and who's in what area of position, you can understand which materials are going to work best. So as an example, if you're in a position where bounce is something that you want to have a lot of bounce, then you'd probably want to have a coil-based mattress because it's got springs that will allow you to bounce.
This is great.
Friction is the thing that you're looking for, where one person is stable while the other person is moving, then foam-based works well, because like a memory foam, your body heats up and then kind of sinks in and then you don't move very much. So again, trying to understand like your personal preferences for position and where you are during intimacy will help determine, which type of mattress would make the most sense for sex. But to be really fair, Gooch, sex doesn't last that long. If you're lucky, you're in the 5 to 7 minute range. So buying a bed,
hey, that's good, because most people don't believe that, and it's nice to put out the truth, man. That's cool. So keep going.
So I tell people all the time, and look, if you feel that your bed is great for sleep but not comfortable for sex, this is very easy. Go have sex someplace else in your house. Be adventurous. Don't do it in front of the window so that you scare the neighbors, but you know what I'm saying? Go to the kitchen, go to the den. Who the hell cares? Go have sex anywhere you want. Doesn't really matter.
That's great. I love the levity. Thank you, by the way. Again, you've got data. So what's going through my mind is, how do you study what's the best mattress for sex? You don't have to answer this, but
well, believe it or not, there are some surveys out there, but remember, I have a pretty large following on social media and email. And so we survey people all the time, asking them these types of questions, because to be honest with you, Gooch, everybody wants to know. This is like, it's not like this is an area that nobody wants to hear about. Everybody wants to know what's the best time for sex, what's the best mattress for sex, because look, let's be fair. It's a primal need.
Okay, what's the best time? You didn't give us that answer.
Sure. So when you think about time, and this gets into the idea of chronotypes. And so one of the things that I'm known for is this idea of chronotype. So you might not know what a chronotype is, so I'm going to explain it real quick right now. A chronotype is if you're an early bird or a night owl. Those are chronotypes. Now you already know from my original call sign that I'm a night owl. Now everybody's just calling me Zeus, which I kind of like, by the way.
I like Zeus too, man. Most call signs aren't cool. That's a cool one.
That's a cool one, right?
Yeah.
So when you're starting to kind of think through this as an idea about when to have sex and when to go to sleep, there's a hormonal difference that you need to take into account. So you need 5 hormones to successfully have intercourse. You need estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, adrenaline, and cortisol all need to be high, right? And melatonin, the sleep hormone, needs to be low, all right? When we did our survey, we discovered that most people like to have sex somewhere between 10 and 11:30 at night. That seems to be the time when people do that. Guess what your hormone profile looks like at 10:30 at night?
Low on the
wrong. Exactly.
Yeah.
Melatonin is high and all those other things are low. So that's secret number 1 hint as to when you should be having sex. Number 2, if you're having sex with somebody who's designated as male, what do most males wake up with in the morning?
Yeah.
An erection.
Yeah.
Dude, if that's not Mother Nature telling you when to use that thing, I don't know what is. Okay. So you're hearing it here on our podcast. You now, everybody who's listening has a prescription to talk with their partner and try having intercourse in the morning time. Do me a favor, hop out of bed, brush your teeth, throw in a little mouthwash before you do it, and hop back in and have some fun. You will be pleasantly surprised. Number 1, it's a great way to start off your day. Most people, it actually relaxes them into their morning. So it works out really, really well. And look, if morning time isn't your thing, try early evening before you get too tired. What we're really discovering through our surveys is it's no longer not tonight, I have a headache. It's not tonight, I'm too freaking exhausted, right? And that's the way the world is. And so maybe, approaching your partner at 6:30, 7 o'clock for before dinner sex might not be the worst idea in the world because your hormones haven't all drifted into that late night stage. So if you happen to get my book, which is called The Power of When, we actually created a matrix. Now, here's the interesting thing. What do you do if you're an early bird and your partner is a night owl?
Yeah.
Right? That can be a little wonky as well. So we created a matrix where you put in your chronotype on the top, you put in your partner's chronotype on the side, and I give you times. We also created 2 other matrices, one for homosexual couples and one for lesbian couples, because the hormone profiles are different.
Wow. And you've got a quiz that I can figure this out quickly, right? So what is that?
Yeah.
So
it's called chronoquiz.com, chronoquiz.com. We'll put that in the show notes for people. But here's the deal. It takes 2 minutes. It's about 15 questions long. And I promise you will really, really enjoy learning more about what your chronotype is. And here's the thing is once you learn it, you can actually apply it to all kinds of things. So as an example, sports. Yeah. Once you know your chronotype, let's say you're a night owl like me. We don't like working out in the morning time. We like working out at night. And guess what? We perform better when we work out at night because we're night owls. But if I was an early bird, trying to work out at 6 o'clock would be a nightmare for somebody like me from a motivation standpoint, but also from a strength standpoint and from a connection standpoint. So again, understanding this idea of your chronotype can actually teach you a whole host of things, not just when to sleep, when to wake up, when to have sex, but also things like when to exercise, when to drink coffee, when to have alcohol, all of those things.
Wow. Yeah, let's keep on this health aspect too, because it's a combination, sleep and health. But I did want to find out, what about snoring? Because my wife says I'm a snorer, which I don't know, it doesn't.
Right.
What can I do about it? And how does that affect sleep?
Got it. So when you're thinking about snoring in particular, this is a big issue. And a lot of people think, snoring, no big deal. That's their problem, whoever your bed partner is. That is not true. I want to be very clear. Snoring is an early sign of pathology and potentially sleep apnea. Now, I also want to be clear. Not everybody that snores has sleep apnea, but almost everyone that has sleep apnea snores. So it's a two-way street, but the traffic is not even on both sides of the street, if you know what I mean here.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you snore? Number one, you really need to ask your partner, do they ever hear your snoring stop, or do they ever hear you stop breathing in your sleep? This is the number one way that we are able to identify and then test people for sleep apnea, which we mentioned earlier. So first things first, ask your partner, hey, do I stop breathing? Or if you wake up choking or gasping, don't hit go straight to your doctor and get a sleep study done, because you probably have sleep apnea, and that's something we want to look at. Let's say, for example, you don't stop breathing, you just snore. What do you do in that case? Here's a couple of tips. Number one, drop some weight. About 5% usually does it for about 25 to 30 decibels of the snore itself. So if you're a 200-pound person, I'm asking you to drop 10 pounds, okay? I'm not asking you to go on a full-scale diet and drop 40 pounds, blah, blah, blah. 10 freaking pounds for a 200-pounder shouldn't be that tough to do. So buck up and figure out how to lose about 5% of your body weight. That's number one. Number two, look at internal nasal dilators. So what do I mean by that? I tell people all the time, you need to decongest for better rest. And here's what I mean by that. Any nasal congestion makes your mouth drop open to breathe. When your mouth drops open to breathe and you're sucking air in, you pull your tongue backwards, you cut off your air, you wake up and you've got sleep apnea. People should not be mouth breathing. So everything that you can do to open up the pipes in your nose turns out to be incredibly, incredibly important. So number one, consider a decongestant before bed, a nasal spray or something along those lines. That can be very, very helpful. My personal favorite that I use is a non-steroid spray. It's not even a spray. It's called Sinusonic, Sinusonic. This is a thing that I breathe back and forth, and it actually naturally clears all the congestion from my head. The second thing you can do is you can get this internal nasal dilator. That's actually something that goes inside your nostrils, sort of like a breathe right, but for inside your nose. The one I like the most is called Mute, M-U-T-E, like hit the mute button on your snoring. So if I drink alcohol, and by the way, I like bourbon. So
good. What's your favorite bourbon, by the way? I love bourbon.
My favorite drinking bourbon is Basil Hayden, but my favorite like high-end bourbon is Blanton's or Booker's, because the one with the horse on it, I think it's Blanton's has got the horse on it. Man, that's good stuff.
Yeah, just 2 nights ago, man, had some. That was good.
It's really good. But if I drink bourbon, my wife says, go stick your nose thingy in because you're going to snore up the household. So I stick that thing in and she lets me in the bed. So what I'm telling you here is that congestion is a big, big factor. So weight loss, number one, congestion, number two. Position also turns out to be important. When you're lying on your back, all the gravity pushes your anatomy to the back of your throat. And guess what? Your throat gets narrow, which makes the air move faster, which makes a vibration, which makes it snore. So you got to open up the pipe. How do you do that? The elbow to the ribs, roll over to the side actually works, because when you roll to the side, your mouth moves forward and your tongue moves forward in your mouth and thereby opens up your airway. So position may have an effect. My favorite technique for snoring, other than earplugs for the people who are lying next to you, is to create a pillow wall between you and your bed partner. There's nothing worse than a bed partner who rolls over and starts snoring right at you, okay? So here's what you do. Many people don't know this, but sound is a matter wave, meaning it has physical presence. And so when somebody snores, that's a waveform that actually is coming at you. If you put a barricade like a pillow between you and the snorer, it bounces back and they hear it. Guess what happens? They will then rotate and move in the complete opposite direction of you and therefore push their snoring in a different place.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I like
it works.
Wow. Okay. So many helpful hints. Back to when the light hits your eyes. So this idea of getting up, let's say, I know you told me I got to get up same time every day if I want to, but let's say I don't, right? When light hits my eyes, I mean, you said get outside quickly, right? Is that what you want to do?
I prefer it. And so when you look at the data, here's what we see is people should wake up as the sun is coming up. And our eyes, the rods and the cones and things like that, if we slowly get this sunrise, it's actually really healthy for our eyeballs. And in fact, we want to wake up in the light if at all possible. Doesn't always work that way because some people have to get up at the, butt crack of dawn type of thing. But generally speaking, if you can get up with the light, allowing your eyes to open and enjoy that sunshine, it actually does a lot of very positive things for your overall health.
Okay, so that would tell me to sleep with the windows, the drapes open,
Yes,
let the light in. But now if I can't, well, I guess it's dark, hopefully, when you go to bed. But,
exactly. Or use an eye mask.
okay, so eye masks are good. They work.
Oh, I love eye masks. Now, to be fair, it looks like you're sleeping in bed, from the 50s, right? You've got this eye mask on and you think you look like Lucille Ball or something like that. But I got to tell you something. There's some nice eye masks out there. I use one every single night and I love it. It's great for travel too.
Well, that's what I was thinking. So give me some travel tips. I travel over 100 times a year.
Yep.
Now, I can sleep on airplanes. I can sleep anywhere for some reason. I think you know why? Because when I was on aircraft carriers, it's absolutely the worst place. I mean, it's noisy, it smells, there's constant catapults going off, bam, the ship shakes, but you're so tired, you just go to sleep.
Right. So everybody that I've met in the military is able to fall asleep in the worst conditions I've ever seen, ever. Yeah. However, there's a second factor that's happened, and it's a little bit more on the serious side of the topic, which is when I talk to people in the military who've ever been in an active theater of war, usually they've got PTSD on some level, and that has a big effect on their ability to fall asleep, stay asleep, nightmares, and this what I call hypervigilance that people have, right? So if you're in an active theater of war and there's a bullet that's heading your way, the only thing that saves your ass is your ability to be alert and aware. Right. I mean, this, I was not in the military, but I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of soldiers at this point. And that's what I can tell you. And so for many of them, the insomnia is quite devastating, secondary to being in that active theater of war. So I want to be clear that, yes, my military folks can sleep almost anywhere because they're used to sleeping on trucks, submarines, aircraft carriers, airplanes, like wherever you can catch your 30, 40 winks. They say, close your eyes and catch your winks, and you damn well better do it because you're not going to get another time to do it. But back into the real world, I will tell you, lots of people have difficulty being able to have the ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. And a lot of that has to do with anxiety.
Okay, anxiety. So yeah, let's talk about falling asleep. If somebody who's listening has a problem with falling asleep, why does that occur and what do they do?
So number one, if you figure out what your chronotype is by going to Chrono Quiz, I actually tell you the right time to go to bed based on your genetics. So that's kind of a quick hack to make life much easier for you. So number one, if you go to bed at the time that your body wants to go to bed, you fall asleep more quickly, you wake up more easily. But think about it like this. Sleep is a lot like a baseball game, okay? We know that the game is going to start at 7 o'clock, right? If you go and you show up at 4 o'clock, what's going to happen? Nothing. The game doesn't fucking start until 7, okay? You're going to watch batting practice maybe, something like that, right? Then let's say game starts at 7. You can't make it till 9. Do you think they're going to hold up the game for you? Because they're not, okay? That's how sleep works, right? If you show up too early, your body's not going to fall asleep. You're just going to sit there and get upset. If you show up too late, you're going to be overexhausted. Your body's not going to necessarily know what to do. And you could potentially have a problem there as well. So really finding that time in the middle, which is what we kind of are searching for, turns out to be really, really important.
Oh, interesting. And what about computers? And, when should I stop looking at devices?
90 minutes before bed is when I tell people to stop having blue light affect them. But to be clear, it really depends more on how much blue light exposure you got during the daytime as to how it has an effect on you at night. So while a lot of people are like, oh my God, turn off all the TVs, stop all that stuff. Here's what I'm going to tell you, Gooch. It has less to do with the physical light than it does with the emotions associated with it. Okay. So here's my thing. If you've got your phone, right, in your hands before bed and you're doing one of these scrolling deals, or you're trying to get your high score on Candy Crush, I got a news flash for you. You ain't trying to go to bed. Okay. Right. You need runway to land the plane. Okay.
Like it.
And this is not runway, right? This is wait, drop. You're not a Harrier jet. Okay. You got to come in, right? You got to come. I'm using your analogy.
I like it.
Right. I'm working hard for you, brother. So you got to you got to bring yourself in and give yourself the time and the space in order to do that. So blue light may or may not have that big of a deal. But again, if you're going on Facebook and you're writing messages to people, that's not trying to fall asleep. I think I might be the only sleep doctor in the universe that says it's okay to fall asleep with the television on. Yep, you heard it here. I am the only, number one, my wife does it. So it'd be pretty bad if I told everybody to do something different than what I tell my wife. But more importantly, TV's passive, right? You're lying there. The content is kind of passing over you. It's easy to fall asleep watching television. As a matter of fact, I would argue many people do. And look, there's timers built into the software. Like, this isn't rocket science. Ask your kid. That's what I did. They showed me exactly where it was. We got the timer set. Boom, it goes off just fine. So don't worry too much about blue light. The thing to worry about, temperature. Temperature is the biggest factor for sleep because your sleep follows your core body temperature cycle. So here's what you want to do. Your core body temperature rises till about 10:30 at night. Then it begins to fall. That fall is a signal to your brain to release that melatonin we've been talking about. Then it keeps falling. So keeping your body cool will keep your body able to fall asleep more quickly and stay asleep longer. So don't worry as much about the blue light as you should about the thermostat.
Wow, that's huge. That's why I like, falling asleep with the window open, maybe fresh air. Then there's noise that kicks in. You got
a little bit of noise is good. I want to also talk about that for a second, because here's what most people don't know is the more quiet it is, the more acute your hearing becomes. So having a little bit of background noise is a good thing, right? Like having your dog breathing in the room, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if they're snoring on the pillow next to your head, that could be a different story. But a little bit of noise in the room is not going to be harmful at all.
Okay. Like that. What about the content that you're watching? So,
yes, very good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Gooch. I'm glad you did. So number one, you want to have something that is fiction. Okay. Not nonfiction. Don't watch the news. Okay. There's nothing good on the news. It's going to give you shitty dreams and make you more anxious. Okay. Don't watch a documentary that you're really into, because guess what? You're going to stay up and want to watch it. Watch an old episode of Seinfeld. You know what I'm saying? Watch something that you've seen before that it'd be fun. A comedy, right? A romance, something that's got a positive bend to it. Don't watch a murder mystery, thriller, serial killer, pedophile, crazy stuff. That's not good for before bed because it fills your head with all of those thoughts. And what do you think you're going to dream about? What you were thinking about just before you fell asleep. So,
hey, you might have just solved one of my problems with my marriage is that I love football and football is brain dead. When you think about it,
exactly.
I can fall asleep unless it's a game that I care about and all that. But so maybe
there's only one sport that's better.
Tell me.
Golf.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
Sugar likes golf.
They talk like this. Tigers approaching the putt. And it's like, I'm done, bro. Like I'm looking at this beautiful scenery. I'm watching and I'm like, and that's it, right? So I love falling asleep to golf. And I'm a football fan as well. Who's your team? Are you college or pro?
Oh, much more college. Me
too. So I went to the University of Georgia. So my Bulldogs are kicking
you gotta be happy
ass
right
this
now.
year once again.
Okay, so Nick Saban had me come speak to the team at Alabama.
Did he?
Not this year. That was about 5 years ago, and we won the national championship that year. And Georgia had me come speak too, but it was the athletic department. It wasn't just the football team. And then they won that year too. Georgia's looking tough, man. You guys are looking really good this year.
I know we lost a bunch of people on defense, and then we did a great job of recruiting. So I'm super excited about all of it. But looking at athletes' sleep, here's what I'll tell you: that is the secret weapon, bro. Because look, all these athletes are tested for steroids and drugs and performance enhancing stuff. So they've all got to be on the up and up. So there's only so much training you can do. Sleep is the secret weapon, and people have no idea. I mean, if you really are smart and you are thorough and you get your sleeps during the season, I can tell you right now, I can extend people's careers. I can increase your points. Like whatever the metric is, I can show you how better sleep will make that better. Usually it's interesting though, because the rookies that come into the professionals, they're the ones who are usually the craziest. I usually get the journeymen who are, like maybe 3 years into their career, and they know they need to extend their career because they want their shelf life to continue. Sleep is a massive factor.
Their what do you call that when you get a retirement too in the pros? What is it, 3.4 years or something like that? But anyhow, love what you talked about, because you work with world-class athletes. I mean, anybody who's listening, you have the background where you've actually done this, right?
Correct.
And I love that. And business too, right? You can help companies with their people be more productive.
Absolutely. So as an example, one of the things that I did, actually, my friend, I don't know, you may have heard of this company called Bulletproof. They're a biohacker kind of company where they look for unique ways to increase performance. And so what they did was they chronotyped their entire company. So we discovered that there were night owls, there were early birds. And what they did was they had meetings based on their chronotype, and they found productivity increases dramatically. Right? Because if you're a night owl and somebody's calling a 7 a.m. meeting on Monday morning, newsflash, your brain isn't aware of that. Your brain's not taking in any information or your assignments. It's not going to work too well. But if you had that same meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, guess what? You'd be awake and ready to go. So there's lots of things that companies can do utilizing chronotypes.
What if you're stuck in a rut? Let's say you've been staying up late, you can't fall asleep, you've got anxiety or something is causing this whole thing. So you sleep in. Now you do everything that you're not saying to do, right? And that becomes your norm though, because you're tired during the day, right? So how do you get out of that, let's say, pattern into something more productive?
Well, I think there's a couple of different things you can do. Number one, get a tracker and start monitoring your sleep, or download a sleep diary. There's lots of them on the internet, and start looking at your sleep, and then really see if you can make it regular. So the more consistent you make your sleep, the better the overall sleep quality that you will get. And then the other things I would say, if you're really doing poorly, is caffeine management is going to be your friend. So knowing and understanding when to use caffeine, how much, and not to overuse it, I think would be a big important factor as well. And then the other thing, by the way, Gooch, naps. Like almost all of my athletes, I have them taking a nap just before they're performing, because what it does is it takes any of that excess sleep deprivation that they might have, throws it out the window. As little as a 7-minute nap can show improvements in performance that are pretty significant. So I use a lot of napping.
Did that, right? Didn't Einstein, he was famous?
Yeah, he did. He was very famous for taking naps. And there's a lot of, believe it or not, there's a lot of athletes that take a lot of naps. Also, some athletes will actually extend their sleep cycle depending upon their sport. As an example, there's data to show that if you sleep 9 hours or more, you can actually increase your free throw percentages. Dr. Cherry Ma did that data out at Stanford. Oh, believe me, dude, the NBA takes that data very seriously. So they've got, when you've got performers on your team, because think about it, they're investing hundreds of millions of dollars into these athletes, right? They need them to perform, and they need them to last a significant period of time. So sleep turns out to be a big factor.
Okay, I got 2 questions to wrap up. Number one, you and I are ripping. I love your style too, man. There's so much I want to learn from you, and I think everybody is. And you've given us so much. Number one,
thanks, Gooch.
Chrono test. We're taking that chrono
quiz.
Chrono quiz. Thank you. I'm jumping on that right away. And I hope everybody does. Well, 2 things is we've been talking, you finally said 9 hours. So I've been just wondering, like, what is the right amount of sleep?
All right. So I'm going to tell you an experiment that I want all the listeners to run to figure it out, because it's different for everyone.
There you go.
General guideline, 7 to 9 hours is what we're looking for, generally speaking. Me personally, I get 6 hours and 15 minutes, and I'm the sleep doctor. Okay. So let me tell you how I did it. So I started out going to bed at midnight. Remember, I'm a night owl, and just waking up whenever I woke up. At the beginning, I woke up around 7:30, 8 o'clock. Okay. After I did that for about 3 weeks, I started waking up at 7:45. Another month, and I was waking up at 7:15. 2 months later, I was waking up at 6:30, and then it layered in at 6:15. my body won't actually let me sleep longer than 6 hours and 15 minutes. If I go to bed at midnight, my body knows exactly what to do. I review my data and I'm looking sharp. And so what I tell people all the time is, here's what you do. Take your socially determined wake up time. That means what time do you have to wake up to feed the kids, walk the dogs, or go to work? Let's call it 7:30. Count backwards 7.5 hours. Why am I choosing 7.5 hours? The average sleep cycle is 90 minutes. The average person has 5 of those. 5 times 90 is 450 minutes, which is actually 7.5 hours. So if you wake up at 7:30, you're going to bed at midnight. Now, all of a sudden, you've got the parameters of exactly what you need. As soon as you start to do that, you will watch your sleep begin to consolidate, and you'll figure out exactly how much sleep you really need.
Oh, nice. I'm so glad now everybody can do that. Okay.
Everyone.
So much information. Last question leads into gratitude, or just the idea of appreciation in life, gratitude in life. How is that important, or is it important for your sleep and your performance?
So it's important for both. So I use gratitude in several different ways. Number one, every single morning after my 3:15s, I do a 5-minute meditation specifically for gratitude. Being grateful for my health, being grateful for my environment, being grateful for my family, starting my day in gratitude is one of the best and least stressful ways of starting your day. The second thing I do with gratitude is at the end of the day, I do a gratitude list before I go to sleep at night. I do this while I'm lying in bed with my eyes closed and it being dark. I want to explain to you why. There's actually data to show that optimism before sleep helps you fall asleep more quickly and gives you more positive dreams.
Nice.
Right? Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That's really cool. And it plants seeds in your brain of, right.
Exactly.
You wake up happier. So it's one of those recurring upward spirals, right?
That's right. That's the whole. So we make our days where we start with gratitude and we end with gratitude. So nice. Gratitude's very important, I would argue, to overall sleep and performance, certainly from the sleep doctor.
I love it. I'm going to actually send you, I just created a course called Gratitude for High Performance, and you nailed 2 of the things: how you wake up, how you go to bed. And I also got one, how you reboot if something knocks you off in the middle of the day, and not even sleep. I'm just talking about bam. Okay, cool. And that's coming out for everybody soon.
Oh, amazing.
Get that. Now, I love the idea of the Glad to Be Here. That's a brand that we're growing, and it means a lot of things. It means high performance with appreciation and gratitude. It's not just fluffy. So I just I'm going to give you a chance to end our podcast, but I'll finish with my part. My Glad to Be Here share out. Doc Zeus, I'm calling you Zeus now. You're Doc Zeus. I just want to say thank you. This has been an unbelievable time together. So much information. I could go on and on. I know you got a patient you got to get to. But what's really cool is you've given me a lot that I can take action on right away, but also you've given me the tools that I can dive deeper. I can go to your website. I can figure out what mattress I need. I can take that quiz. So many things that are going to help me personally and my family. And I want to say thank you for that. That doesn't always happen. So thank you for what you do. And I know you're making a big difference in a lot of athletes and everyone, business and people's lives. So I'm glad you were on. So glad to be here. Over to you.
Well, thank you. First of all, you're welcome. It's always my pleasure to have the opportunity to have great conversations like what we're having. It doesn't always work that way. So it's a two-way street, Gooch. And so thank you for your conversational abilities. Thank you for asking great, interesting questions, not dumb, boring questions, and really getting to the heart of the matter. I mean, I think it's great that we've had that opportunity to do that. I hope that maybe even in the future, I get a chance to come back because there's a lot more data we can talk about for sleep for sure. And I can't wait to check out this course on gratitude because I'm going to be very straightforward with you. Gratitude matters, period, end of story.
Nice. All right, Zeus. What a time. We will definitely have you back, and sooner than later, because I've got a lot of good questions. Thank you, brother. You're a blessing. Glad to be here.
I appreciate you, man.
Oh, last thing again, the quiz. I want to make sure everybody knows exactly where to go. Where's that again?
www.chronoquiz.com.
Chronoquiz.com. I'm going there right now. Zeus, Gucci out.
Peace.